I never imagined that a simple food delivery would spiral into a scene involving flashing lights, handcuffs, and my own neighbor at the center of it all. Yet that's exactly how things unfolded when Sheila Watkins, the self-appointed queen of Oakwood Estates and ruler of our HOA, decided that my takeout habits somehow violated the sacred community standards. It all began about 3 months ago, not long after I'd moved into Oakwood Estates, a perfectly manicured suburban paradise where every mailbox looked cloned from the next, every lawn was cut to the exact same height of 3 inches, and every homeowner smiled with robotic precision, as a program to maintain an illusion of harmony. I work from home as a software developer, and after several grueling nights of coding marathons that blurred into dawn, I decided I'd earned a reward, a lavish dinner from my favorite steakhouse. I ordered online, tracking the delivery on my phone with a kind of anticipation only true exhaustion and hunger can produce. When the notification popped up, "Driver has arrived," my stomach growled in agreement. But minutes passed, and the doorbell never rang. I refreshed the app, frowning, and there it was, a photo of my dinner sitting neatly on a doorstep that wasn't mine. I called the driver immediately. His voice was confused but apologetic. "I swear I followed the instructions," he said. "The lady told me she was expecting it. Even gave me your name when I asked." And that's how I met Sheila Watkins for the first time. She was in her early 60s, her perfectly highlighted hair sculpted into a razor-sharp bob so precise it could probably cut glass. As the HOA president, Sheila patrolled Oakwood Estates like a decorated general guarding classified territory. I recognized her house from the teal front door in the photo, so I walked 3 houses down and knocked. When she opened the door, the mouth-watering aroma of my steak dinner wafted out like a cruel taunt. "Excuse me," I began as politely as possible. "I think the driver accidentally delivered my order here." Her expression didn't flicker. With a tone dipped in sugar but sharpened with authority, she replied, "Oh, I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. The HOA has a strict policy against food deliveries after 6 p.m. on weekdays. It's clearly stated in Section 12.3 of the Community Guidelines." Her lips curved into a thin, knowing smile. "As HOA president, it's my duty to enforce those rules. Consider this your friendly first warning." I stared at her, barely able to process the absurdity. "That's my dinner. I paid for it. Can I please have it back?" Her smile didn't waver. "I've already disposed of it properly. You'll receive a written notice tomorrow. Welcome to Oakwood Estates." And with that, she shut the door in my face. I stood on her porch, out $75 and still starving. Fury simmered beneath my disbelief. Out of pure spite, I ordered a pizza. The next morning, a violation notice appeared in my mailbox on official HOA letterhead, signed by none other than Sheila herself. It cited a rule that didn't even exist in the bylaws I'd received at closing. I emailed the HOA board for clarification, but received only automated responses. At first, I decided not to escalate. It wasn't worth igniting a neighborhood war over one stolen meal. But Sheila wasn't done. Over the next few weeks, a disturbing pattern emerged. Every single time I ordered delivery, Sheila intercepted it, like she had a sixth sense for incoming takeout. Sometimes she told the drivers they were violating parking regulations for idling too long. Other times, she claimed I'd canceled the order and forgotten to inform the restaurant. Once, she even pretended to be my wife, insisting she was authorized to accept the food on my behalf. By the time I realized what was happening, I'd lost nearly $300 worth of meals. That was the breaking point. I installed a doorbell camera and began documenting everything. I filed formal complaints with both the HOA board and the management company that oversaw Oakwood Estates. While a few board members expressed sympathy, none dared to stand up to Sheila. She's been president for nearly 10 years. One neighbor whispered to me after a tense community meeting. Last year, she had the Petersons' maple tree removed while they were on vacation, said it dropped too many leaves. The year before that, she fined the Garcias daily until they erased their daughter's chalk drawing from their driveway. No one crosses her. That was when I decided to stop playing fair. I placed a massive order from the most expensive French restaurant in town. The total came to just over $500. Outrageous. But this wasn't about the food anymore. This was bait. The order included several bottles of fine wine, Wagyu beef tartare, truffle-infused entrees, and decadent desserts. I stationed myself near the window, waiting. Sure enough, the delivery car rolled into our cul-de-sac, and right on cue, Sheila strutted out of her house like a general inspecting the troops. She intercepted the driver before he even reached my porch. Through my doorbell camera, I heard her smug voice declare, "Community regulations require me to accept all deliveries on behalf of residents." Oh, Sheila. She had no idea what she'd just walked into. The driver hesitated, clearly unsure but too intimidated to argue. He handed over the bags and left. Instead of storming down the street in a fit of anger, I took a steady breath and called the police non-emergency line. "I'd like to report a theft," I said calmly. "My neighbor has been stealing my food delivery for weeks. Today, she took an order worth over $500. I have video evidence." 20 minutes later, 2 patrol cars glided silently into the cul-de-sac, lights flashing softly against the immaculate lawns. From my window, I watched the officers approach Sheila's door. She answered with her usual poised authority, but when she saw the uniforms, her expression shifted from confidence to outrage. I could see her gesturing wildly, undoubtedly invoking her imaginary HOA authority to justify her actions. One of the officers eventually came to my door. "Sir," he began evenly, "your neighbor claims she was acting in her capacity as HOA president by confiscating deliveries that violate community rules." I couldn't help smiling. I pulled up the HOA bylaws on my phone and showed him the relevant sections. "There's no rule about deliveries," I said, then played the doorbell footage showing that night's incident, and several others. His face hardened with each clip. "And the value of today's order?" $523.47, I replied, holding up the digital receipt. "Includes an $80 Bordeaux and a $100 Wagyu steak." He nodded. "Wait here, please." I stood in my driveway as he rejoined his partner and Sheila. The exchange grew heated. Sheila's gestures became frantic, her voice rising. Then, to my astonishment, one officer reached for his handcuffs while the other began reading her rights. Even from a distance, I could see Sheila's face flush pink, then pale, then settle into the color of overcooked salmon. Moments later, she was escorted to the cruiser, wrists bound behind her back. That evening, an officer returned to take my full statement. "Your neighbor is being charged with grand larceny," he explained matter-of-factly. "Theft over $500 is a felony. She claims she was disposing of your food for health and safety reasons, but we found your entire order in her fridge. The wine was still on the counter." He gave a small, wry smile. Apparently, being HOA president doesn't grant her the authority to seize other people's property. The fallout was immediate. The following evening, an emergency HOA meeting was called. When I walked into the community center, it was standing room only. Sheila's name dominated the agenda. One by one, neighbors stood and shared their own horror stories, years of petty fines, arbitrary punishments, and endless bullying. The board members sat stiffly, clearly uncomfortable, as residents aired grievances they'd held in for years. When it was my turn, I didn't bother with a speech. I simply played a compilation of doorbell footage. Sheila intercepting deliveries in every possible outfit, bathrobe, gardening gloves, even pajamas, acting like the self-appointed enforcer of Oakwood Estates. The video spoke louder than I ever could. That night, the board voted unanimously to remove her as president. Howard, the soft-spoken vice president, announced they'd also be conducting a full audit of the HOA's finances for the past 3 years. He cleared his throat before adding, "Ms. Watkins has been released on bail but faces felony charges and significant legal costs." 2 days later, a knock came at my door. When I opened it, Sheila stood there, but not the immaculate, imperious version I'd known. Her hair hung limp, her makeup faint. She clutched a designer purse like a lifeline. "My attorney says I need to make restitution," she said quietly, voice trembling. She extended a thick envelope toward me. "This covers everything you lost, plus interest." I took it without opening it. "Thank you," I said simply. She lingered, eyes glassy and uncertain, as though waiting for something, maybe forgiveness, maybe mercy. But instead, I asked, was it worth it? All that effort, all that control, for something so small. Her mask cracked. "You don't understand," she hissed, voice shaking. "I've given everything to maintain standards in this community. Everything. And now I might lose my real estate license over this misunderstanding." Her eyes filled with tears. "Do you have any idea what a criminal record will do to my career? My reputation?" For the first time, she didn't look like a tyrant, just a woman crushed beneath the weight of her own need for control. "That was never my goal," I told her quietly. "I just wanted to eat my dinner in peace." She opened her mouth as if to say more, but the cheerful chime of my phone interrupted. I glanced at the screen and smiled. "Excuse me," I said, stepping back. "That's my lunch delivery." And for the first time since I'd moved to Oakwood Estates, I knew, this time, my meal would actually make it to my door.